The midwife's face went white as she held the second baby. "My lord, my lady, he's not breathing." Lin's arms reached desperately for her son even as she cradled her wailing daughter. The boy was perfect, black hair, tiny features, eyes open and aware, but utterly, impossibly still. Shen pressed his ear to the infant's chest, and his ancient vampire hearing found only silence where a heartbeat should be. "He's not dead," the midwife whispered, backing away in fear. "He's something else. Something the old texts warned about. My lord, your son exists between worlds, and I don't know how to bring him back." Before we dive into the impossible choice between two newborns, one living, one caught between worlds, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel brings you stories where love faces the ultimate test, where family bonds transcend life and death, and where sometimes the greatest miracles require the greatest sacrifices. This is part 2 of Lin and Shen's story. If you haven't seen part 1, check it out after this, but you can enjoy this story on its own. Now, let's discover what happens when one twin breathes and the other only watches. 5 years after the blood moon. Lin had known something was different about this pregnancy from the start. With Kaito, she'd felt his presence constantly, his movements, his emotions, even his dreams sometimes through their bond. But with the twins, there had always been a strange duality. One presence was warm, active, constantly kicking and rolling. The other was quieter, calmer, almost meditative in its stillness. Twins are just different, Lady Hannah had assured her during the examinations. One is always more active than the other. Perfectly normal. But now, holding her daughter, May, they'd already decided to name her, while staring at her son who lay on the examination table with open eyes but no breath. Lin knew this had never been normal. "Explain it to me again," Shen demanded, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. He hadn't left the baby's side, one hand hovering over the infant as if he could will a heartbeat into existence. How was he alive without breathing? Without a heartbeat? Grandmother Wu, who'd arrived within an hour of the birth, as if she'd sensed something momentous, ran her withered hands over the baby boy's chest. Her milky eyes saw what others couldn't. "He's in stasis," she said finally. A state between life and death that occurs in exactly one circumstance, when twins are born to parents who've already broken one major prophecy. "We broke Feng's curse," Lin said, her arms tightening protectively around May, who'd finally stopped crying and was nursing contentedly. "What does that have to do with our son?" "Everything." Grandmother Wu's expression was grave. "When you broke the Eastern curse 5 years ago, you fundamentally altered the magical fabric of both territories. You proved that prophecies can be twisted, that destinies can be rewritten. But magic demands balance. For every curse broken, something else must be held in suspension. Our son." Shen's voice was deadly quiet. "Our son is being held in suspension because we broke a curse. Not punishment," Grandmother Wu corrected quickly. "Transformation. Your daughter," she gestured to May, "is fully formed. Alive in every traditional sense. She'll grow normally, age normally. But your son." She looked at the silent baby. "He exists in a state of pure potential. Neither fully alive nor dead. Not aging, not growing, just existing. Waiting." "Waiting for what?" Lin demanded. "For the choice to be made." A scroll appeared in Grandmother Wu's hands, ancient, fragile, covered in text so old it predated the vampire kingdoms themselves. "When the curse breakers bear twins," she read aloud, "one shall breathe with life, one shall wait in silence. The silent twin exists between the worlds until the choice is made. Will the twin who breathes share their life, or will the twin who waits take their place? When breath and silence become one, two kingdoms will either rise together or fall forever." The room went utterly silent except for May's small sounds of contentment. "No," Lin whispered. "No, that's not, you're saying May has to choose. To give up her life for her brother. She's an infant. How can we ask an infant to?" "You can't," Grandmother Wu said gently. "The choice won't come from May. It will come from the family. From love. From the bonds between you all." Her gaze moved to the doorway. "Especially from him." Everyone turned. Kaito stood in the doorway, his 5-year-old face solemn. He'd been listening. For how long, no one knew. The baby brother isn't breathing, Kaito said, not a question but a statement. Why? Come here, little one, Shen said, his voice gentling despite his anguish. Come meet your brother and sister. Kaito approached slowly, climbing onto the examination table where his baby brother lay. He stared down at the infant, taking in the open eyes, the perfect stillness, the unmoving chest. Then he did something no one expected. He placed his small hand over his brother's heart and closed his eyes. I can hear him, Kaito whispered. Everyone froze. What did you say? Lin asked. I can hear him. The baby. He's not quiet. He's loud. He's screaming. Kaito's eyes opened, shimmering with tears. He wants to wake up. He wants to cry like sister. But he can't. He's stuck. Grandmother Wu sucked in a sharp breath. The boy has the gift. The sight. He can perceive the space between worlds. Can you help him, Kaito? Shen asked urgently. Can you bring him back? I don't know. Kaito looked up at his father with heartbreaking uncertainty. I can hear him, but I can't reach him. It's like he's behind glass. I can see him and hear him, but when I try to touch him, there's something in the way. Lin's mind raced. If Kaito could perceive his brother in the between space, maybe he could also. A commotion erupted outside the birthing chamber. Shouts. The clash of weapons. Lady Hannah burst through the door, her face grim. My lord, we have a situation. There are vampires at the gates. From the old coven. They're demanding. She trailed off, her eyes going to the baby on the table. Demanding what? Shen asked, though his expression said he already knew. The stasis child. They're claiming ancient rights to any child born between the worlds. They say he belongs to the old magic, not to your family. Over my dead body, Shen snarled, moving to stand protectively over his son. That can be arranged, a new voice spoke from the shadows. Everyone spun as a figure emerged from darkness itself, a vampire so ancient his features seemed carved from moonlight and shadow. He wore robes that predated kingdoms, and his eyes held the weight of eons. I am eldest Riku, he announced. First of the old coven. And I have come to collect what belongs to the ancient ways. My son belongs to me, Shen growled, crimson eyes blazing. Your son belongs to neither life nor death, Riku corrected calmly. He exists in the liminal space, the realm that we, the old coven, have guarded since before your kingdoms existed. Children born in stasis must be claimed by the old magic, or they become weapons that can tear reality itself. He's not a weapon, Lin said fiercely, even as Mei stirred against her chest. He's a baby. Our baby. He is a baby now, Riku agreed. But if left unclaimed, unguided, he will become something far more dangerous. The stasis children always do. His gaze softened slightly. I understand your fear. Your love. But this is bigger than one family. This is about the balance of all things. Then help us, Lin pleaded. Help us wake him. Bring him back to life properly, and you can have whatever you want. Anything. Just don't take our son. Riku studied her for a long moment. There is one way. But it requires something your family may not be willing to give. Name it, Shen said immediately. The stasis child can be awakened, fully brought to life, if someone living gives him their breath. Literally. Breathes life into him in a ritual that will connect their souls permanently. But the one who gives the breath will share their life force with him forever. They will be bound, what hurts one will hurt the other. If one dies, the other dies. They become two halves of one existence. The implications hung in the air like ice. Mei, Lin breathed. You want Mei to bind herself to her brother. To give up her independence, her safety, to be forever tied to a twin who might be in danger from, she gestured at Riku. From whatever forces want stasis children. I want nothing, Riku said. I'm simply explaining the cost. The old magic demands balance. To pull someone from between the worlds requires an anchor in the living world. A permanent anchor. The twin sister is the obvious choice, born at the same moment, from the same womb, sharing the same blood. She's an infant. Lin shouted. We can't make that choice for her. Then make a different choice, Rika said. Give the boy to the old coven. We will raise him in the between spaces, teach him to navigate both worlds, and when he's old enough to choose for himself, he can decide if he wants to return to your family or remain with us. Either way, he will live. In his own way. That's not living, Shen said coldly. That's existing. Trapped between worlds. Never truly belonging anywhere. Like his mother once was. Riku's gaze moved to Lin. Neither fully human nor vampire for years. Existing between two worlds. Yet she survived. She thrived. Your son could do the same. It was a low blow, and everyone knew it. There's a third option, Kaito said quietly. All eyes turned to the 5-year-old boy who still had his hand over his brother's heart. I could give him my breath, Kaito said. I can hear him. I can feel him. Maybe I can reach him better than May because I'm older. Because I know what it's like to be alive and to want things. Absolutely not, Shen and Lin said simultaneously. Why not? Kaito looked between his parents. You told me that family protects each other. That big brothers protect little brothers. This is how I protect him. Kaito, if you bind yourself to him, you'll be connected forever, Lin tried to explain. If he gets hurt, you get hurt. If someone tries to take him, they can use you against him. If he dies, then I die too, Kaito finished calmly, with the matter-of-fact tone only children could muster. But mama, if I don't do it, and you give him to the scary old vampire, then part of me dies anyway. Because I'll know I could have saved my brother and I didn't. That would hurt worse than sharing my life. Tears streamed down Lin's face. You're 5 years old. You can't understand what you're offering. I'm 5 years old, Kaito agreed. But I've been hearing the baby brother screaming in the quiet place since before he was born. I've been listening to him for months, Mama. And I made him a promise. I promised that when he came out, I'd protect him. I'd be his big brother. I'd make sure he was safe. He looked down at the silent baby with profound love. I'm keeping my promise. The decision tore through Shen and Lin like a physical wound. On one side, let Kaito perform the ritual, binding him forever to his brother, risking both their lives in an unbreakable connection. On the other, surrender their newborn son to the old coven, knowing he'd grow up in the between spaces, never truly belonging to their family. There was no third option. May was too young, too vulnerable. And neither Shen nor Lin could perform the ritual themselves. Grandmother Wu had explained that the bond required someone with pure, uncomplicated love. Adult love was too complex, too burdened with fear and expectation. Only a child's love was simple enough, strong enough, to bridge the gap between worlds. I need to speak with my mate alone, Shen said, his voice strained. Grandmother Wu, can you ensure my son's safety while we discuss? Of course. The ancient vampire moved to stand guard over both boys, Kaito still with his hand on his brother's chest, and the silent baby between them. Elder Riku inclined his head. I will wait at the gates. But dawn approaches. If the stasis child is not claimed by life or by the old coven before sunrise, he will slip entirely into the between realm. At that point, not even our magic can retrieve him. You have 3 hours. He dissolved into shadow and was gone. In their private chamber, with Mei sleeping peacefully in a cradle between them, Shen and Lin faced the impossible. I can't let Kaito do this, Lin said, her voice breaking. Shen, he's 5. He doesn't understand what forever means. What if he resents his brother later? What if the bond hurts him? What if we let our newborn son disappear into the between realm because we were too afraid to let Kaito be brave? Shen interrupted gently. Lin, I'm terrified too. But did you see Kaito's face? He's been hearing the baby for months. They're already connected. Maybe this bond isn't forcing something new, maybe it's just making official what already exists. Or maybe I'm a terrible mother for even considering letting one son sacrifice himself for another, Lin whispered. Shen pulled her close, careful not to disturb Mei. You're the best mother I've ever known. You survived impossible odds to bring Kaito into the world. You faced down a vampire lord who wanted to use you. You chose to forget everything rather than watch me die. You're brave beyond measure. But sometimes. He swallowed hard. Sometimes the bravest thing is letting our children be brave too. What if we lose them both? Lin asked. What if the ritual fails? What if binding them together just means we watch both our sons slip away? Then we'll have tried everything. Shen's voice was rough with emotion. And they'll have had each other. Even at the end. Lin closed her eyes, letting tears fall freely. She thought of the last 5 years, watching Kaito grow from infant to boy, seeing him develop his father's strength and her determination. He'd been asking for a sibling for 2 years, excited beyond measure when they'd told him twins were coming. He promised his brother he'd protect him, she said finally. Before the baby was even born. Kaito's been talking to him for months, hasn't he? Through whatever gift he has. They've been bonding this whole time, and we didn't even realize. So maybe this isn't a sacrifice, Shen said. Maybe this is just brotherhood. In its purest form. Lin looked down at Mei, sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling with perfect, natural breath. One baby breathing for herself. One baby waiting in silence. And one 5-year-old boy is ready to bridge the gap between them. We let him choose, Lin said. We explain everything, all of it, including the dangers. And we let Kaito choose. If he still wants to do this after understanding the full cost, then we trust our son, Shen finished. And we pray to whatever gods are listening that love is stronger than magic. They gathered in the Great Hall at midnight, 3 hours before dawn's deadline. Kaito had been given the full explanation. Every danger. Every consequence. Every permanent change the bond would create. Grandmother Wu had even shown him visions, possibilities of what being bound to his brother might mean. Shared pain. Shared emotions. Never being truly alone, for better or worse. I still want to do it, Kaito said firmly. He's my brother. And he's scared. I can hear him being scared, and I can't leave him there. The ritual space had been prepared. Ancient symbols drawn in silver and salt on the floor. Candles marking the 4 directions. And at the center, a cushion where the silent baby lay, eyes still open, still aware, still waiting. Kaito knelt beside his brother, looking impossibly small and impossibly brave. The ritual is simple in theory, complex in execution, Grandmother Wu explained. Kaito will breathe his life force into the baby, but not just air. Intent. Love. Connection. He's not just giving oxygen, he's giving a piece of his soul. The baby will breathe back, creating a loop. 2 souls, 1 breath, cycling between them forever. Will it hurt? Kaito asked. Yes, Grandmother Wu said honestly. But only for a moment. Then you'll feel complete. Like you found a piece of yourself you didn't know was missing. Okay. Kaito nodded. I'm ready. Shen knelt on one side of his sons, Lin on the other, with Mei in her arms. They couldn't participate, this was between brothers, but they could bear witness. Begin when you're ready, Grandmother Wu instructed. Lean down, place your lips near his lips, and breathe out everything you are. Your love. Your protection. Your promise. And then wait for him to breathe back. Kaito took a deep breath, the breath that would change everything. Then he leaned down, placing his small lips near his baby brother's mouth. And he exhaled. The room seemed to hold its breath with him. The air around the 2 boys began to shimmer, silver and gold light intertwining, visible manifestations of life force, of soul energy, of pure love made tangible. Kaito breathed out, longer than should have been possible, as if he was giving not just one breath but every breath he'd ever taken, pouring his entire existence into his silent brother. The baby's eyes, which had been open but blank, suddenly focused on Kaito. And then, after what felt like an eternity, the baby's tiny chest moved. Not much. Just a flutter. An attempt. Come on, Kaito whispered against his brother's skin. Come on, brother. Breathe with me. Breathe for me. Wake up. Please wake up. The baby's chest rose again. Stronger this time. That's it. Grandmother Wu said urgently. Kaito, breathe in now. Pull his breath into you. Complete the cycle. Kaito inhaled, and everyone gasped as visible silver light flowed from the baby's mouth into Kaito's. The loop was forming. 2 breaths becoming 1, cycling between them. The baby's eyes widened further. His tiny mouth opened. And for the first time since his birth, he cried. The sound was weak, thin, but absolutely real. Absolutely alive. Keep breathing. Grandmother Wu commanded. The bond isn't complete yet. 3 more cycles. Kaito breathed out, silver and gold light flowing into his brother. The baby breathed in, his lungs learning the rhythm. Kaito breathed in, pulling the shared life force back. The baby breathed out, a stronger cry this time. Again. Breath out. Breath in. Out. In. The light surrounding them intensified, spinning faster, weaving between the 2 boys like visible threads of destiny being braided together. On the 3rd cycle, something shifted. The light exploded outward in a shock wave that knocked everyone back, everyone except the 2 boys, who remained locked in their breathing rhythm, completely untouched by the blast. When the light faded, Kaito was gasping, collapsed beside his brother. And the baby was screaming, full-voiced, furious, absolutely and completely alive. His chest rose and fell with independent breaths. His heart beat, Lin could hear it now, strong and steady. It worked, Shen breathed, pulling both boys into his arms. It actually worked. Grandmother Wu approached slowly, checking both boys with gentle, thorough touches. The bond is complete. They're separate beings, but connected at the soul level. Their life forces are intertwined now. As one grows stronger, so will the other. If one is hurt, the other will feel it. They're brothers in every possible sense, biological, magical, and spiritual. Kaito stirred, sitting up with effort. His eyes had changed, still brown like his mother's, but now with flecks of silver that matched his brother's aura. Are you all right? Lin asked urgently, checking him for injuries. I'm good, Kaito said, though he looked exhausted. I'm really good. Mama, he's not screaming anymore. In the quiet place, I mean. He's here. He's really here. He reached down and gently took his baby brother's tiny hand. The crying stopped instantly. The baby looked up at Kaito and made a small, content sound. He knows you, Lin whispered, awed. He recognizes his big brother. We've been talking for months, Kaito said simply, as if this explained everything. Maybe it did. I told him about the moon gardens and the snow and how soft Mama's hugs are. I told him about Dad's stories and Grandmother Wu's cookies. I told him all the good things waiting for him. I think he wanted to wake up so he could see if I was telling the truth. Tears streamed down Lin's face as she gathered both boys close, with Mei still sleeping peacefully in the crook of her arm. 3 children. All alive. All here. Shen wrapped his arms around all of them, his face pressed against Lin's hair, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs of relief. What will you name him? Grandmother Wu asked softly. The boy who was silent and learned to sing. Shen and Lin looked at each other, then at their newborn son, finally breathing on his own, eyes bright and aware and full of life. Ren, Shen said. We'll name him Ren. Like the lotus that blooms in muddy water. Because he existed in the space between, in the darkness, and still found his way to the light. Ren, Lin repeated, touching her son's cheek. And Mei. Silence and song, working together. Don't forget Kaito, the 5-year-old added, yawning hugely. Kaito, Ren, and Mei. The best siblings ever. The doors to the great hall opened suddenly. Elder Riku stood on the threshold, his ancient face unreadable. The stasis child breathes, he observed. The bond is formed. You have chosen the mortal path over the old ways. I have chosen my family, Shen said coldly, moving protectively in front of his mate and children. And if the old coven has a problem with that, they're welcome to challenge me. Riku studied them for a long moment, the vampire king and his half-turned mate, the 5-year-old boy with silver-flecked eyes, the breathing newborn boy, and the sleeping baby girl. Then, impossibly, he smiled. No challenge will come. You have done something the old coven believed impossible. You've anchored a stasis child with pure love rather than dark magic. The bond your eldest son created. He shook his head in wonder. It's stronger than any spell we could have crafted. The boy will grow up belonging to both worlds, the living and the between spaces, but he'll be anchored here, with you, by his brother's love. That is, acceptable. I didn't do it for your acceptance, Kaito said, his young voice carrying surprising strength despite his exhaustion. Riku's smile widened. No. You did it for your brother. Which is precisely why it worked. He inclined his head respectfully, to Kaito, not to Shen. You've created something new, young. A bridge between worlds that's never existed before. The old coven will be watching your family with great interest. Not as a threat, he added quickly, seeing Shen's expression. As hope. If love can bind what magic couldn't, perhaps there's more to learn than we ancient ones believed possible. He began to fade into shadow, but paused at the threshold. One more thing. The prophecy spoke of two kingdoms rising or falling together. I believe it's been fulfilled. Your northern and eastern territories, bound together by you and your mate. And now your children, bound together by their brother's sacrifice. Two kingdoms. Two twins. Both rising together, not through conquest or curse, but through love. The prophecy is complete. And then he was gone, leaving only a whisper of cold air behind. The first week was chaos. Ren was a normal baby in most ways, eating, sleeping, crying at all hours. But there were differences. His eyes tracked movement too precisely for a newborn. His grip was stronger than it should be. And most notably, he was always calm when Kaito was near. The bond worked exactly as Grandmother Wu predicted. When Kaito slept, Ren slept peacefully. When Kaito woke, Ren became alert. When Kaito laughed, Ren made happy sounds. When Kaito scraped his knee during play, Ren cried as if he felt the pain. They were separate children, but their souls were intertwined. Is this going to be forever? Kaito asked on the 8th day, holding Ren while his baby brother fussed. Will he always feel everything I feel? The bond will settle, Grandmother Wu assured him. Right now it's new, raw, oversensitive. As you both grow and learn to manage it, you'll be able to separate your emotions somewhat. But yes, you'll always be connected. Always know when the other is in distress. That doesn't sound so bad, Kaito said, rocking Ren gently. It means I'll always know if he needs help. But the complications went beyond shared sensations. On the 10th day, Lady Hannah brought disturbing news. There are refugees at the border, she reported. From the southern territories. They're claiming that their lords are experimenting. Trying to recreate what happened here. Trying to force stasis births in hopes of creating children with access to the between worlds. Shen's expression went cold. They're trying to weaponize what my sons did out of love. Worse, Hannah continued. They're failing. The forced stasis births are creating children who are trapped permanently, neither alive nor dead, unable to be saved because there's no bond of love to pull them back. The southern lords are abandoning these children in the between spaces, and the old coven is collecting them, Grandmother Wu finished grimly. Riku warned me this might happen. Word of Ren's miraculous awakening has spread. Now ambitious vampires think they can harvest between world children for power. Lin felt sick. We need to stop this. We need to do more than stop it, Shen said. We need to show them why it won't work. Why can't love be manufactured or forced? Over the next week, they opened the northern castle to the refugees from the south. Families who'd fled after witnessing the horror of forced stasis births. Mothers who'd lost babies to the between spaces. Fathers who'd watched their children slip away into realms they couldn't follow. And Kaito, with Ren in his arms, spoke to them all. My brother came back because I promised him I would protect him, the 5-year-old explained with heartbreaking simplicity. I talked to him before he was even born. I told him about our family. I told him he was wanted. And when he got stuck, I gave him my breath because I love him. You can't make that happen with magic or force. You can only make it happen with love. The refugees wept. They understood. But the Southern Lords did not. Kaito gave his own life force to save his brother, binding them forever. Now other vampire lords are trying to recreate this miracle through force and dark magic, creating only tragedy. Would you risk everything to save a sibling? And how do you stop others from twisting an act of love into a weapon? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think should happen next. On day 23, the Southern Lords made their move. 3 vampire nobles arrived at the gates, bearing formal challenges. They wanted to study Ren and Kaito, to understand the bond, to replicate it for their own territories. My sons are not experiments, Shen said coldly from his throne, Lin beside him with Mei in her arms, and both boys nearby under heavy guard. We're not asking, Lord Takumi, the eldest of the Southern nobles, said with thinly veiled threat. The Old Coven has declared stasis children to be subjects of universal interest. Any child who exists between the worlds can be claimed for study by any lord of sufficient rank. We invoke ancient right. Riku would never, Shen began. Riku is not the only voice in the Old Coven, Takumi interrupted. There are those of us who believe the between worlds should be accessible to all vampires, not just those lucky enough to have loving children. We believe knowledge should be shared, studied, replicated. And we will have access to your stasis child, with or without your cooperation. The threat hung in the air like poison. He's not a stasis child anymore, Kaito said, his young voice clear despite his fear. Ren is my brother. He's alive. He breathes. He has a heartbeat. You can't claim him. Can't we? Takumi's smile was cruel. Tell me, boy, when you sleep, does your brother feel it? When you hurt, does he cry? You've bound yourself to him so thoroughly that he cannot exist without you. That makes him still half stasis. Still between the worlds. Still subject to Old Coven law. Grandmother Wu stepped forward, her ancient face grave. You're twisting the law, Takumi. And you know it. The boy is alive by every measure. Then prove it. Takumi's eyes glittered with malice. Separate the brothers for one full day. If the stasis child, if Ren, can exist independently of his brother without slipping back into the between spaces, we'll withdraw our claim. But if he cannot. His smile widened. Then he remains in stasis, and we have the right to study. That's insane, Lin protested. They're barely a month old and 5. The bond is still settling. Separation could damage them both. Then it seems you have a choice to make, Takumi said. Risk damaging your sons with separation, or let us take the stasis child for study. Either way, you lose. You just get to choose how. There's a third option, a new voice said from the shadows. Eldest Riku materialized, and his expression was thunderous. You overstep, Takumi, Riku said coldly. The Old Coven has made no such declaration about universal access to stasis children. You fabricated this claim to further your own experiments. The old ways support study of between-world phenomena, Takumi argued. You yourself have collected dozens of unclaimed stasis children. Unclaimed. Abandoned. Children with no families, no bonds, no hope of awakening, Riku interrupted. Children who would otherwise be lost forever. Ren is claimed. Bonded. Loved. He belongs to his family, not to ancient law. Then let him prove it, Takumi pressed. 1 day separation. If he's truly alive, truly independent, he'll survive it. If not. He shrugged. Then perhaps he needs the Old Coven's guidance after all. Shen looked at Lin. Lin looked at both their sons, Kaito standing protectively near Ren's cradle, his face showing fear but also determination. If we refuse? Shen asked Riku. Then Takumi will petition the full Old Coven Council, Riku said. And I cannot guarantee they'll rule in your favor. Some believe stasis knowledge should be shared, regardless of circumstance. It would take months to resolve, and during that time, Takumi could file emergency seizure claims, arguing the child is in danger from untrained parents. It was a trap. Brilliantly designed and perfectly cruel. Refuse the test, and fight a legal battle that could drag on for years with Ren's status in question the entire time. Accept the test, and risk both Kaito and Ren in a separation that could damage the bond, or prove Takumi right if Ren couldn't maintain independence. We'll do the test, Kaito said quietly. Kaito, no, Lin began. We'll do it, he repeated, looking at his parents with eyes far too old for 5. Because Ren is alive. Really alive. And I trust him. I trust us. We can do this. We can show them that love is stronger than any magic. Ren, as if hearing his brother's words, made a small sound from his cradle. Not distressed. Almost, agreeing. Tomorrow, Shen said, his voice like ice. We will perform the separation test tomorrow. But know this, Takumi, if anything happens to either of my sons, if this test harms them in any way, I will hold you personally responsible. And there is no law, ancient or otherwise, that will protect you from a father's wrath. Takumi's smile faltered, just slightly. But he'd gotten what he wanted. The test would proceed. Dawn broke cold and mercilessly on the day of the test. The rules were simple and cruel. Kaito would be taken to the eastern wing of the castle. Ren would remain in the western wing. Neither could see, hear, or touch the other for 24 hours. If Ren maintained independent life, breathing, heartbeat, consciousness, for the full day, he was proven alive. If he slipped back into stasis, no one wanted to think about that outcome. I don't want to leave him, Kaito said, holding Ren one last time before the separation. The baby was awake, alert, his small hand wrapped around Kaito's finger. I know, little one, Lin said, her voice thick with tears. But you need to be brave. For him. For yourself. For all of us. What if he forgets me? Kaito whispered. What if the whole day apart makes him forget I'm his brother? He won't forget, Shen said firmly, kneeling beside them. The bond is real, Kaito. Deeper than distance. Stronger than time. 24 hours won't erase what you built together. Grandmother Wu approached with 2 items, a silver bracelet for Kaito, a matching one for Ren, tiny, fitted for an infant's wrist. These are bond anchors, she explained. They won't let you communicate, but they'll let you know each other is still there. Still alive. If you feel warmth from the bracelet, Ren is calm. If it grows cold, he's distressed. And vice versa for him, yours will tell him your emotional state. It's not much, but it's something. Kaito held out his wrist for the bracelet. Lin fastened the matching one around Ren's tiny arm. Be brave, little brother, Kaito whispered, kissing Ren's forehead. I'll see you when the sun sets tomorrow. I promise. Ren's eyes tracked Kaito as Lady Hannah gently took the 5-year-old's hand and led him away. The moment Kaito disappeared from sight, Ren began to cry. Not the normal fussy cry of an infant. A desperate, heartbroken wail that made everyone in the room flinch. He knows, Lin whispered, picking up her screaming son. He knows Kaito's gone. The first hour is always the hardest, Grandmother Wu said, though her expression was painful. The bond is protesting the separation. But if they can endure, if the love is strong enough, it will hold. In the eastern wing, they could hear Kaito sobbing too. The test had begun. Hour 1, agony. Both boys cried continuously. Ren's screams were piercing, desperate. Kaito's sobs echoed through the halls. Neither could be comforted. Food was refused. Sleep was impossible. Lin paced with Ren, rocking him, singing to him, begging him to calm down. Nothing worked. The baby's eyes were wild, searching, constantly looking for the brother who wasn't there. His heartbeat is steady, the physician monitoring Ren reported. Breathing is regular despite the crying. Physically, he's stable. But emotionally, he was shattered. In the eastern wing, Shen held Kaito as the 5-year-old fought against the separation with every fiber of his being. I can feel him screaming, Kaito gasped between sobs. Baba, I can feel how scared he is. The bracelet is ice cold. He thinks I abandoned him. He thinks I left him. You didn't leave him, Shen said firmly. You're proving to the world that you love him. That he's real. That he's alive. This is you protecting him, Kaito. The way you promised you would. This doesn't feel like protecting, Kaito wept. This feels like hurting him. I know, son. I know. Hour 4, exhaustion. Both boys had cried themselves into exhausted silence. Neither slept, they just lay quiet, eyes open, staring at nothing. Ren's physician reported stable vitals. He was breathing independently. Heart rate was elevated but steady. No signs of slipping into stasis. But the baby wouldn't eat. Wouldn't track movement with his eyes. Wouldn't respond to sound or touch. He just existed. Barely. This is what he was like when he was born, Lin whispered, terror creeping into her voice. Empty. Aware but not present. Is he going back? Is the separation pushing him back into the between spaces? His heartbeat hasn't stopped, Grandmother Wu said. He's not in stasis. He's grieving. In the eastern wing, Kaito had gone similarly silent. He lay curled around his silver bracelet, which had warmed slightly, indicating Ren had calmed from screaming to quiet despair. Talk to me, Shen begged his son. Tell me what you're feeling. Empty, Kaito whispered. Like part of me is missing. Like I left my heart in the other wing and I'm just walking around without it. But you're still here, Shen said. Still yourself. Still Kaito. Am I? The 5-year-old's eyes were haunted. Or am I just the half that's left when the whole is torn apart? Hour 8, the turning point. Mei, who'd been largely overlooked during the crisis, began to cry. Not the normal cry of a hungry baby. A deliberate, attention-demanding wail that made Lin jump. What's wrong, sweetheart? Lin asked, checking her daughter while still holding the unresponsive Ren. Mei's tiny hand reached out. Not toward Lin. Toward Ren. And when her fingers brushed her twin brother's cheek, something remarkable happened. Ren blinked. Focused. Turned his head toward his sister. Wait, Lin breathed. Do that again. Mei's hand touched Ren's face again, and this time he made a small sound. Not distressed. Curious. He recognizes her, Grandmother Wu said, wondering in her voice. The twin bond. We'd forgotten about the twin bond. Kaito's bond is the strongest, but Ren and Mei shared a womb. They were together before either of them took breath. She's anchoring him too. Lin carefully positioned both twins so they were touching, Mei's small hand in Ren's, their faces close enough to see each other. Ren's eyes cleared. He wasn't happy, he was still grieving Kaito's absence, but he was present again. Aware. Connected. He's not alone, Lin realized. Even without Kaito, he's not completely alone. Mei is here. His other half. In the eastern wing, Kaito suddenly sat up, his hand going to his bracelet. Something changed. Ren feels better. Not happy, but not empty anymore. What happened? Your sister, Shen said, understanding dawn. Mei is with him. She's helping him cope. Kaito closed his eyes, and for the first time in 8 hours, he relaxed slightly. Good. That's good. They should be together. Twins are supposed to be together. The irony of the statement, from a boy forcibly separated from his bonded brother, was not lost on anyone. Hour 12, midnight. Halfway through. Both boys had survived 12 hours apart. Ren was eating now, small amounts, with Mei beside him constantly. His heartbeat remained steady. His breathing was normal. He was categorically, undeniably alive without Kaito's direct presence. But the cost was visible in his eyes. He looked older, somehow. Aware of loss in a way no 1-month-old should be. Kaito had fallen into a fitful sleep in the eastern wing, his hand still clutched around the bracelet that connected him to his distant brother. Lord Takumi and his southern nobles watched with barely concealed frustration. The boy was surviving. Thriving, even, with his twin sister's support. Their claim of permanent stasis dependency was crumbling with every hour that passed. He's using the other twin as a crutch, Takumi argued. That's not true independence. He's using his sister as family support, Riku countered coldly. Which is perfectly natural. You demanded he survive without Kaito. You said nothing about isolating him from all bonds. The test terms are met. Takumi scowled but couldn't argue. Hour 20, dawn. The second sunrise of the test broke over a castle that had barely slept. 4 hours left. Kaito woke to find his father asleep in the chair beside his bed, having kept vigil all night. The bracelet on his wrist was warm, Ren was calm, maybe even content. He's okay, Kaito whispered to himself. He's okay without me. He's strong. He's my strong little brother. Tears ran down his face, but they weren't tears of grief anymore. They were tears of pride. In the western wing, Ren had started making small sounds, not quite babbling, but close. His eyes tracked movement again. When Lin spoke to him, he turned his head toward her voice. When Mei made small baby noises, he responded with his own. He was a baby. A normal, healthy, alive baby. The test was nearly over. Hour 24, sunset. When the final hour struck, both wings of the castle erupted in controlled chaos. Kaito was running before anyone could stop him, racing through hallways with supernatural speed he shouldn't have possessed at 5 years old, except he was bonded to a half-vampire brother, and apparently that granted him some abilities. He burst into the western wing just as Lin was carrying Ren out to meet him. The brothers locked eyes across the room. Ren's face, which had been calm a moment before, crumpled with joy. His arms reached desperately for Kaito. Kaito crossed the distance in seconds, and Lin carefully handed the baby to him. The moment they touched, both boys gasped. The bond, which had been stretched thin like a wire under tension for 24 hours, snapped back into place with almost physical force. Silver light flared around them briefly, visible evidence of the reconnection. And then both boys were crying. Happy tears, relief tears, reunion tears. I did it, Kaito sobbed. You did it. We did it, brother. We proved it. You're alive. Really, truly alive. They can't take you now. They can't claim you. You're ours. Ren wailed in response, his loudest, strongest cry yet. A cry of victory. Of presence. Of absolute, undeniable life. Lord Takumi stood across the room, his face twisted with frustration. The test proves nothing. He survived with his sister's support. That's not independence. The test proves everything, Riku interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of ultimate authority. The child maintained independent heartbeat, breathing, and consciousness for 24 hours without his bonded brother. He ate. He slept. He interacted with other family members. He is alive by every measure. Your claim is denied, Takumi. The old coven will not be used to further your twisted experiments. The council will hear about this. The council already has heard about this, Rika said. I called a session the moment you made your claim. They've been watching via scrying this entire time. And the verdict is unanimous, the child lives. The bond is valid. The family is protected under old coven law. And you, his eyes flashed dangerously, are forbidden from ever approaching this family again. Your research into forced stasis births ends today, or you. Answer to me personally. Takumi looked like he wanted to argue, but facing Rika's ancient rage, he chose survival over pride. This isn't over, he spat, but he was already backing toward the door. You can't stop progress. Others will succeed where I've failed. Others will learn from your cruelty and choose compassion instead, Grandmother Wu said quietly. That's the lesson of this family. Love succeeds where force fails. Every time. Without exception. Takumi and his nobles fled, leaving only family, friends, and the absolute joy of reunion. Shen wrapped his arms around Lin, Kaito, Ren, and Mei, all 5 of them in one embrace. We did it, he whispered. Against prophecy, against the old coven, against impossible odds. We kept our family together. Kaito did it, Lin corrected, kissing her eldest son's head. He saved his brother twice now. Once by giving him breath, once by proving he's alive. We all did it, Kaito said firmly, looking at each of his family members. Because that's what family does. We protect each other. No matter what. Ren made a content sound against his brother's chest, his tiny hand wrapped around Kaito's finger again, right where it belonged. Mei, in Lin's arms, reached out and touched both her brothers, completing the circle of 3. 3 children. 3 miracles. 3 impossibilities made real through love. The weeks following the separation test were filled with healing. Kaito and Ren's bond stabilized, still present, still strong, but less raw. They learned to exist as separate beings while maintaining their connection. Kaito could feel when Ren was distressed, but he no longer felt every sensation his brother experienced. Ren could sense Kaito's presence, but he no longer panicked when his brother left the room. They were finding balance. It's like, Kaito tried to explain to his parents one evening. It's like having a string between our hearts. I can always tell where he is, if he's happy or sad, if he needs me. But it's not pulling on me all the time anymore. It's just there. Connecting us. Making us brothers. That's exactly what it should be, Grandmother Wu said proudly. You've mastered a bond that most adults would struggle to manage. I'm impressed, young one. Meanwhile, Ren was developing normally, hitting milestones, growing stronger, becoming more himself every day. And he was showing signs of his unique nature. He could see things others couldn't, perceive the between spaces even though he was firmly anchored in the living world. He'll be powerful when he's older, Riku commented during one of his now regular visits. The eldest of the old coven had become something of a protective uncle to the children, fascinated by the family that had achieved what he'd thought impossible. A child who was stasis and returned. He'll walk between worlds like no one else can. But he'll always choose to return here, to you, because that's where his anchor is. Where his love is. Will others try to take him? Lin asked, the mother's eternal worry. Try to use him for their experiments or power? They might try, Rika said. But they'll have to go through the old coven, and through me personally. This family has proven something essential. Love creates bonds that dark magic can only dream of achieving. I won't let anyone corrupt that lesson with cruelty and ambition. It was as close to a promise of protection as the ancient vampire could give. 3 months after the twins' birth, the castle held a naming ceremony. In vampire tradition, children were given their full names only after they'd survived their first season, a recognition that they would live, would thrive, and would become full members of the family and community. The great hall was packed. Every noble house in the northern and eastern territories attended. Representatives from the southern territories came too, the good lords, the ones who'd rejected Takumi's experiments and chosen compassion over power. Even the old coven sent a delegation. Shen stood at the center of the hall, holding Ren. Lin stood beside him, holding Mei. And Kaito stood between his parents, the bridge between siblings, the anchor that held everything together. Today we name our children, Shen announced, his voice carrying through the hall. Not just with words, but with the truth of who they are and what they mean. He lifted Ren higher. This is Ren Yuki, son of Shen and Lin, brother to Kaito and Mei. His name means lotus and courage. He is the child who existed between worlds and chose life. The child who was silent and learned to sing. The child who proved that love can anchor even souls lost in the dark. He will grow to walk between worlds, but he will always belong here, to this family, to this home. That is his truth. The assembled vampires and humans bowed in respect. Lin lifted Mei next. This is Mei Akari, daughter of Shen and Lin, sister to Kaito and Ren. Her name means beautiful and light. She is the child who breathed easy while her brother struggled. The child whose presence helped anchor her twin when he needed her most. She will grow to shine brightly, to remind us all that sometimes strength is quiet, that sometimes help comes not from grand gestures but from simply being present. That is her truth. More bows. More respect. And finally, Kaito stepped forward on his own, standing tall despite being only 5 years old. I am Kaito Shen, son of Shen and Lin, brother to Ren and Mei, he said, his young voice clear and strong. My name means ocean and true. I am the child who chose love over safety. Who gave my breath so my brother could find his. Who learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared, it means being scared and choosing to protect your family anyway. I am bonded to my brother, connected to my sister, loved by my parents. That is my truth. That is who I will always be. The hall erupted in applause. Grandmother Wu approached the family, carrying a ceremonial chalice filled with blessed wine mixed with honey, a symbol of sweet life earned through bitter struggle. By the old ways and the new, I recognize these children as full members of House Shen, with all rights, protections, and honors that entails, she pronounced formally. May they grow strong in love, wise in power, and gentle in victory. May they remember that the bonds of family are stronger than any magic, any curse, any prophecy. And may they teach the world that sometimes the greatest miracles come not from grand magic or ancient power, but from a child who loved his brother enough to share his very breath. She offered the chalice to each family member. They each took a sip, even baby Ren, with Lin's help, just a touch of the blessed liquid on his tiny lips. When the ceremony was complete, when the formalities were done, the celebration began. Music played. Food was served. Children, vampire, human, and half, ran through the halls playing games that transcended species. And at the center of it all, the family that had defeated prophecy twice, that had turned curse into blessing, that had proven love was stronger than any dark magic sat together. Kaito held Ren in his lap, carefully supporting his baby brother's head. Mei slept in Lin's arms. Shen's hand rested on his mate's shoulder, his expression more peaceful than it had been in months. Are you happy? Lin asked him softly. I am complete, Shen corrected. For 1,000 years, I existed. For the last 5 years, I've lived. There's a difference. You taught me that. Our children remind me of it every day. What do you think they'll become? Lin wondered, looking at their 3 children. Kaito with his bond magic. Ren with his between-world abilities. Mei with her quiet strength. They'll become exactly who they're meant to be, Shen said. Together. Supporting each other. Loving each other. The way siblings should. Kaito looked up at his parents and smiled. Can I tell you a secret? Of course, little one, Lin said. I'm not scared anymore, Kaito said. About Ren. About the bond. About any of it. Because I know now, the bond isn't a burden. It's a gift. I get to love my brother so completely that I can literally feel his happiness. How many big brothers get to experience that? Not many, Shen agreed, his voice thick with emotion. So I'm lucky, Kaito concluded. We're all lucky. We get to be a family that nothing can break. Not prophecies. Not curses. Not stupid vampire lords who want to take us apart. We're stuck together forever. Forever, Ren babbled, his first recognizable word, making everyone laugh. Forever, Mei sleepily echoed, though she was probably just mimicking sounds rather than understanding. Forever, Lin and Shen said together, sealing the promise. 5 years later. The courtyard was filled with laughter as 3 children played in the first snow of winter. Kaito, now 10, was building an elaborate snow fort with architectural precision that showed his father's influence. Ren and Mei, now 5, were his enthusiastic but less coordinated assistants, adding more chaos than structure to the project. No, Kaito was explaining patiently. If you put that snow block there, the whole wall will collapse. We need to, Ren, are you even listening? Ren wasn't listening. He was staring at a point in the middle distance, his eyes slightly unfocused in the way that meant he was seeing something in the between spaces. Ren. Kaito's voice shifted from frustration to concern immediately. The bond let him feel that his brother was okay, but seeing Ren slip into his gift always made him protective. What do you see? Butterflies, Ren said dreamily. But they're made of light. And they're singing. Can you hear them, Kaito? No, brother. Only you can hear things in the between spaces. They're pretty, Ren said, smiling. Then he blinked and snapped back to normal awareness. Oh. Sorry. I got distracted again. What were you saying about the wall? That you need to focus on this world before you worry about the next one, Kaito said, but he was smiling. Come on. Let's finish this fort before Mama calls us in for dinner. Mei, who'd been quietly rolling snowballs with fierce concentration, suddenly spoke up. Mama's already calling. I can hear her. Sure enough, seconds later, Lin's voice rang out across the courtyard. Children. Dinner. And don't make me come out there in the snow. How do you always know before the rest of us? Kaito asked Mei as they trudged toward the palace. Mei shrugged. I just listen better. It was true. While Kaito had the bond magic and Ren had the between-world sight, Mei had developed an almost supernatural awareness of the living world. She could hear conversations from rooms away, sense emotions from the smallest facial changes, notice details everyone else missed. Where her brothers looked to magical realms, Mei was grounded firmly in reality, and saw it more clearly than anyone. They were three parts of a whole. Kaito the connector. Ren the visionary. Mei the observer. Together, they were formidable. Lin met them at the door with towels, brushing snow from their hair with a mother's practiced efficiency. Your father's been in meetings all day, but he should be done soon. Wash up quickly so we can eat together. Is it important meetings? Kaito asked. At 10, he was beginning to understand the weight of ruling territories, the responsibility his father carried. It's always important, Lin said, but her smile was warm. But family dinner is important too. He'll make time. Shen appeared in the doorway as if summoned, still wearing his formal robes from council meetings. But the moment he saw his children, the vampire king's stern expression melted into pure father love. Report, he said in mock seriousness. What have my heirs accomplished today? I built a snow fort with architectural integrity. Kaito announced proudly. I saw singing butterflies made of light. Ren added. I knew Mama was calling before anyone else. Mei finished. Shen pretended to consider. Architecture, magic vision, and supernatural awareness. I suppose that's acceptable for a day's work. But tomorrow I expect dragons. We'll try our best, Baba, Kaito said, grinning. Over dinner, a chaotic, loud affair with three children talking over each other and parents trying to keep order, Grandmother Wu arrived with her usual impeccable timing. Sorry I'm late, she said, though she clearly wasn't sorry. I was consulting with Riku about next month's festival. Oh, is that honey cake? Don't mind if I do. She settled at the table as if she'd always been there, which in many ways, she had. She'd become as much family as blood relations, the wise grandmother who'd guided them through impossible situations. How are the children progressing? She asked casually, though everyone knew she tracked their development closely. Kaito's bond sensitivity is improving, Lin reported. He can differentiate between physical and emotional distress in Ren now, rather than just feeling something wrong. Ren's between sight is strengthening, Shen added. But he's learning to control when he accesses it, rather than pulling him in randomly. And Mei. Grandmother Wu looked at the quiet little girl who was methodically eating her vegetables with perfect manners. Mei is Mei, Lin said, which somehow explained everything. She watches. She learns. She misses nothing. Good. Grandmother Wu nodded approvingly. They'll need all those skills in the years to come. Is there something we should know? Shen asked, his protective instincts immediately activated. Nothing threatening, Grandmother Wu assured him. Just observation. These children are unique, the first of their kind in many ways. Bonded brothers, between world sight, heightened awareness. Other territories are starting to notice. Starting to wonder what it means for the future. Let them wonder, Shen said firmly. My children are not political tools. No, Grandmother Wu agreed. But they may become leaders who bridge worlds that have been separate for millennia. Not through force. Through simply being who they are, children who prove that love creates bonds stronger than blood, that family transcends species and realms, that impossible things become possible when people choose connection over fear. She looked at each child in turn. You three will change the world. Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday. And it will be because your parents taught you that love is the greatest magic, that family is the strongest bond, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is breathe life into someone who's forgotten how. Kaito reached across the table and took Ren's hand. Ren took Mei's. Mei completed the circle by taking Kaito's other hand. We're already changing the world, Kaito said simply. We're just being siblings. If that changes things, it's because other people need to see what that looks like. Wise beyond your years, Grandmother Wu said approvingly. Your parents raised you well. Our parents raised us with love, Kaito corrected. That's the only thing that matters. As dinner continued and conversation flowed, Lin caught Shen's eye across the table. In that regard, everything they'd survived, her pregnancy with Kaito, Feng's curse, her memory erasure, the twin birth crisis, the separation test, all of it. But also everything they'd gained, 3 incredible children, a unified territory, a love that had transcended death and prophecy, a family that proved impossible things were only impossible until someone was brave enough to try. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Kaito in his own room but with his door open so he could sense his siblings, Ren and Mei in their shared nursery, Lin and Shen stood at the window of their chamber, watching snow fall over their territories. "Do you ever regret it?" Lin asked quietly. "The complications? The danger? If you could go back and avoid all of it." "I would change nothing," Shen interrupted firmly. "Every moment of fear, every impossible choice, every terrifying situation led us here. To 3 children who will change the world just by loving each other. To a family that defeated prophecy through sheer stubbornness and love. To us, together, after everything tried to tear us apart." He pulled her close, and she leaned into him, fitting perfectly against his chest. "Besides," he added with a smile she could hear in his voice, "where would the fun be in an easy life?" Lin laughed. "You have a very strange definition of fun." "I have a very strange family," he countered. "And I wouldn't trade them for anything." In the nursery down the hall, Ren stirred in his sleep, reaching out instinctively for his twin. Mei's small hand found him immediately, holding tight even in unconsciousness. And 2 doors down, Kaito smiled in his sleep, feeling through the bond that both his siblings were safe, content, and exactly where they belonged. 3 children. 3 miracles. 3 hearts beating in perfect harmony. 1 family that proved love could bridge even death itself. And it all started with 1 heartbeat becoming 2. From 1 twin born silent to 3 siblings who changed the world, Kaito's sacrifice, Ren's survival, and Mei's quiet strength prove that family bonds transcend life, death, and everything in between. If this story moved your heart, slam that subscribe button right now, because we bring you tales where love conquers impossible odds, where siblings would literally give their breath for each other, and where the greatest magic is found not in spells but in family. Drop a comment, would you bind yourself forever to save a sibling? I'll read every single one. And remember, sometimes the greatest miracles don't come from having a heartbeat. They come from sharing one. See you in the next story, where love always finds a way.